Well, I think UFC 238 was one of the best events. I mean, there were so many successes. I'd give the best grade definitively. Henry Cejudo promised he would claim the title of greatest combat sports athlete in history if he could add another gold belt to his collection with a win over Marlon Moraes. Accomplished that goal, capping off an action-packed night of fights. From Chicago, in the co-main event, Valentina Shevchenko defended her reigning UFC Women's Flyweight title with a vicious head kick KO over Jessica Ai that nearly decapitated her opponent. Tony Ferguson also got back on track with a win over Donald the Cowboy Cerrone, though the win it was not pleasant. It was TKO after doctors would not let the UFC and WEC veteran continue due to a swollen eye that completely shut down his ability to see. But here are the greatest passes. Hail the king of cringe, Henry Cejudo. Henry Cejudo, he has fully embraced his gimmick where he will do things like show up to media day dressed like the Wiz from Seinfeld and then pull stuffed rabbits and rubber snakes out of a hat. But the self-proclaimed king of cringe is also one hell of a good fighter who became the latest UFC champ after he won the bantamweight title with a third round TKO over dangerous fighter, dangerous striker, former WSOF champ Marlon Moraes, which came less than a year after he won the flyweight belt with a split decision and dethroning Demetrius Johnson, one of the greatest legends. Cejudo's current 3-fight run stands up. They are amongst the best trial wins in history when you think about it. Throning Johnson after 11 straight title defenses, stopping TJ Dillashaw in just 32 seconds, then finishing off Moraes inside 3 rounds. Cejudo called himself as the greatest combat sports athlete in history, thanks to 2 UFC titles and 2008 gold medal in freestyle wrestling from the Olympics, and he may still have some work to do before he can stand head and shoulders above the rest of the crowd when it comes to all-time great status, but he is not far away from the top either. He said after his latest win that he also hopes to eventually move up to featherweight and tackle a third world title. It might be tough to imagine that actually happening anytime soon, but at this point we should at least listen to him. Now the second pass. Head kick that shocked the world, that vicious taekwondo left high kick counter. Valentina Shevchenko, she is a taekwondo black belt, and as well as you know, it was kinda croak up, but it was a taekwondo counter. When Jessica Ai made a step forward that viciously landed straight here, nearly decapitated her, she was knocked out cold before she even hit the mat. The audio from the replay only amplified the jaw-dropping finish as Shevchenko's foot bounced off Ai's head, bringing a stop to the fight just 26 seconds into the second round. And Shevchenko kinda remained undefeated at flyweight, while once again staking her claim as one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in all of the women's divisions. The only problem Shevchenko is going to have is fighting worthwhile competition at 125 pounds. Much like Demetrius Johnson once did in men's flyweight division in the UFC, Shevchenko might have to wait for some time before a serious contender truly emerges, but until then, she will happily collect title defenses as the 125 pound division continues to grow and evolve, unless maybe Amanda Nunes decides to drop weight, which is kinda hard to expect. Another pass, Sterling. Aljamain Sterling's big return. He has long been considered one of the best prospects in the UFC bantamweight division, but he had failed in past attempts to truly transition into a legitimate threat to the title. Losses to Brian Caraway, Rafael Assunção, Marlon Moraes. It kinda stopped Sterling's streak, kinda stopped him dead in his tracks every time he began a run. Every single time Aljamain Sterling began a run that could have put him into the top 5 rankings in the division, he was stopped. His past 4 fights, Sterling has rewritten the narrative about his potential in his division, with the exclamation point coming at UFC 238 in a strong showing against Pedro Munhoz. Sterling has been criticized for a somewhat reserved strategy when taking on the top fighters in the world at 135 pound division, while constantly being pegged as a suffocating grappler rather than a well-rounded mixed martial artist. Well, on Saturday night, He was throwing haymakers to his opponent. He barely even looked at the canvas while showcasing diverse striking attack to dismantle Munhoz over the course of 50 minutes. But Munhoz is a guy who KO'd Cody Garbrandt. He is not just a garbage from the street, you know. If not for the slugfest that ensued of the main card between Tony Ferguson and Donald Cowboy Cerrone, there's a good chance Sterling would have gone home with Fight of the Night honors for his 3-round battle against Munhoz. Maybe he'll get a new title shot, you know, but here is another great pass. Main card contention. Someone will say, yeah, these were bad fighters, these were bad names, but no. When the UFC builds an event, there are always considerations taken when it comes to the placement of certain fights. UFC 238 was one of the most stacked events of 2019. It was an embarrassment kind of riches with only 5 fights on the pay-per-view broadcast, with 2 title fights, the lightweight showdown between Ferguson and Cerrone. There were 2 slots available, and I say these were amazing 2 slots, because we've seen a Bulgarian prospect, Blago Ivanov, and thanks to lying bullshit Dana White, and thanks to matchmakers for putting a guy from my state. I mean, thank you guys. Blago Ivanov, he was amazing and great against Taito Iwasa. It was a great slugfest, just like Petr Yan versus Jimmy Rivera. I mean, if you give chances to Europeans, especially Russians and Bulgarians, it kinda can go better. Yeah, there were no place 1 contender bouts, but man, thank you for putting Blago Ivanov to the fight card, to the main card. Thank you for giving him an honor to kick off this event, and thank you for everything, because the honor of Bulgaria was saved in this event too. And Aljamain Sterling, he kinda was the last bout of the preliminary card. He locked up his claim for a title shot with a win over Pedro Munhoz. Tatiana Suarez, she wasn't kinda impressive versus Nina Asharov. She lost 3rd round, but won first 2. Both fights were on the preliminary card. Katlyn Chookagian also called her own title shot with a hard-fought win over Joanne Calderwood in the first fight of the night on the early prelims. But, you know what? Someone will maybe question the liability of those fights, the importance, but I think it was the greatest move for putting Blago Ivanov in the main card. And one more time, thank you UFC bookmakers. Thank you for also putting Blago Ivanov at UFC Wichita, and maybe we will see him fight for the title soon. At least Sterling and Suarez gained the benefit of fighting on ESPN, but it's still a matter of recognition to earn a slot on the main card versus the prelims. Yan faced off against Jimmy Rivera, and it was kinda great bout. I mean, yeah, Sterling defeated earlier this year on the pay-per-view main card this opponent, but I think it was just great. But I see only one fail: flyweight division life support. Dana White is working hard to deactivate this division. The writing appeared to be on the wall that the UFC flyweight division was dying on a slow death. That would probably culminate in the plug being pulled if Cejudo won the bantamweight title on Saturday night, and he won it. All signs pointed in that direction, especially after the UFC released virtually every 125-pound fighter on the roster. In fact, the fly division no longer even boasts enough athletes to fill out the top 15 rankings that the UFC promotes. So it's curious when UFC President Dana White says the flyweight division isn't going anywhere yet. There's no indication whatsoever that the organization actually intends on building the weight class again. To add to the confusion about the future division, Matt Schnell revealed on Sunday that he just signed a new 4-fight contract with the promotion. Now contracts come and go when a fighter can be released at any time off a loss. You remember what line bullshit Dana White did to Elias Theodorou for boring fights, and to Justin Willis too, but it's still a baffling situation where the UFC has a flyweight division, yet no one seems to know what the future holds for that weight class. Even Cejudo cast doubts on his return to flyweight division, simultaneously making a plea for the future of the division. And I don't know, the problem could be the UFC flyweight division was once thriving with plenty of fighters to fill the ranks. Now with only 13 athletes left competing at 125 pounds in the UFC. Lying bullshit, Dana White can proclaim all he wants that the division isn't going anywhere. but the actions of the organization say otherwise. So I kinda don't know what to think, but UFC 238, especially because Blago Ivanov won and because he took part in the main event of the evening, because of Tony Ferguson and Donald Cerrone, great fight of Petr Yan, and also Valentina's KO, vicious head kick that shocked the world, and the main event performance. It was one of the greatest events I've ever seen, and I'm super happy for watching it.